Hello everyone who's here a little early. Just making sure this all works. Looks like we're doing okay. Awesome. So let me hop on. And we will start right at 10 o'clock Central Time. We'll hop right into it. Let's see here. I don't see the chat. Anything? Can everyone who's here hear me? Everything coming through okay? Video, audio wise? Hope so. Alrighty. All clear? Alrighty. Looks like the chat is coming through on the screen. Everything looks like it's working. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this fine Saturday morning. For those of you who are here who have no idea who I am, let me introduce myself. My name is Nick Basile. I'm a UX designer, full stack developer, product manager, marketer, writer, teacher, entrepreneur, essentially a real hodgepodge of a person. But basically, what all those labels enable me to do is build cool things on the web. And that's what I want this Twitch channel to be about, building digital things and sharing how I would approach these projects so you can build them too. Hello to everyone in the chat who's signing on. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Let's see there. Hi, Olu. Thanks. I think I see Matt. And looks like Kermit's here too. All the Lambda School students. That's awesome. So before we start talking about portfolios, I do want to talk a little bit about everyone's favorite topic, and that is logistics. So for this channel, I'm planning on streaming at least once a week, probably on Saturdays mornings at 10 a.m. Central Time. I might also do some shorter streams during the week, but we'll see how the weekends go first. I'll also be taking my stream recordings and adding them to my YouTube channel, so y'all can watch them at a later date or catch any that you missed. I know we all have lives outside of Twitch, and so to catch them on your own time, I think would be helpful. So you can find the link to my YouTube channel below in the About details. Everything should be there. My Twitter is in there. I think my current website is in there. We will be changing that shortly, though. I also wanted to talk about the chat. Hopefully, and I think we have seen a few messages scroll across the screen already. But I want this channel to be less about me showing you like the right way to build something and more of a fun learning community where we can be friends and ask each other questions about how we could do things on our own. Because the truth is, I don't know the right way to build things. I know a way. But if we can have a vibrant chat where we can all ask questions and answer each other's questions, I think we'll all learn so much together. And that's really what my goal is with this community here. And this should go without saying, but in these days, I think it's good to be explicit. Let's be kind humans in the chat. Please don't use hateful language. Don't put anybody down. We're all just trying to learn and have a good time on a Saturday morning. So if you're here to troll, I don't want you to leave. I do want you not to be a troll. It's okay to connect with another person and have a good time. So this is the community that I want to foster and grow here with everyone. Thank you for the follow. I am Dean. Finally, if you like what we're doing here, please consider following this channel or my Twitter account to get notifications when we go live. Follows and seeing y'all in chat are also the best indicators that I have that y'all actually like what I'm doing up here. So please consider following and growing this community with us. Alrighty, so with all the logistics out of the way, for the first project on this channel, I wanted to start with my personal portfolio because after 3-ish years of service, it's ready for an upgrade. But also because I've recently had a number of folks ask me how they could build their own portfolio, and I figured that this would be a fun way for me to help them. So with this project, I'm starting from absolutely nothing, totally from scratch. That way y'all can see not just like the design and code that it takes, those are important, but perhaps more importantly is the thought process and the logic behind what makes a portfolio. I found that we all get really excited about the design and the code. But what really matters is the thinking and narrative we can create about ourselves. And that's the hard part of this whole exercise, and I think what intimidates a lot of people. I like to think of it like you can go to the gym. You think you can go to the gym for just one day and walk out with six-pack abs. We all know that's not going to happen. We know it takes hard work and consistency to achieve that goal. And it's the same thing with portfolios or really anything we want to actually have happen. Thank you. I'm seeing all the follows come in. I really appreciate it. If we don't take the time to develop our narrative and consider how we want to present our best selves to the world, then it's just like we're going to the gym for the day and we won't have that six-pack portfolio at the end of it. So this morning, I want to focus on this part of the puzzle, coming up with my personal narrative and my vision for what I want my portfolio to include. Thank you, everyone, for all the follows. I just saw like 3 come in. Sorry, I will try to call you out. So I just have a little bit of a hard time seeing everything coming in because I've got a lot going on here. So what was I saying here? Yeah, so we're focusing right this morning on coming up with the personal narrative and my vision, right? And that's kind of step one for any part of this portfolio project. And so a couple of things to think about here are sort of what's the different type of portfolios we can create, and which one am I going to end up creating for my personal project here. In regards to the narrative, there are some big questions here that I'm going to have to answer, like who is my audience? Who am I trying to talk to? I'm going to spend some time brainstorming my personal labels. You notice at the top I had a few listed out, but I've probably got, and I think everybody has 20 or 30 labels that we all identify with. And how do we let them, those the way we define ourselves and how do we communicate that about who we are and who we believe we are as a person, and sort of make a personal brand around that and communicate that to your audience. And then, because this will end up being a website, to the world at large. And then, so that could be like a really big brainstorming statement and exercise. So then we have to distill all of that and condense it down into what I call a unique value proposition. And that kind of comes from the lean startup world and sort of a business idea. But I think every individual has one too. We have something, everyone has something unique that we bring to the table in any sort of circumstance. And so we need to find the best way to condense that down into a 1 or 2 sentence phrase that we can then share with other people so they can immediately understand, oh, this is what this person can do for me. Talking about the vision a little bit more, what I do want to do is review my existing website, just to kind of see how have I been doing this in the past. And then research how other designers are presenting themselves as well. So do a little bit of a competitive analysis, kind of see like, okay, this is sort of, and also get some inspiration, right? But really kind of looking at how are other people communicating to the world this is who they are, and maybe take an idea or two about how they're doing that. And then finally kind of wrapping it all up, kind of thinking about how do I want to present myself to the world? So this is that hard work that I was talking about that everybody likes to skip. Everyone wants to just design a website or design a PDF or something like that, and it's just this really flashy document. But if you don't think about all of this stuff at the beginning, when it comes time to like filling out that website and populating it with the content that actually matters, you're just going to have such a harder time. And this kind of gets back into like content first design. And not using something like Lorem Ipsum when we're designing, or any of the fun Lorem Ipsum generators there are out there these days. The content is what really matters when it comes down. Any interface, any website, anything that we're trying to put out into the world. If people can't connect to the content, then it's almost a worthless exercise to worry about the design and get into an argument about are we using PHP or Node.js or something like that on the back end. Those definitely valid arguments, but they just come later in the process. So let's dive into it. I didn't see any questions come in. Everyone, all good with that? Meta question: what do you think of Twitch's information architecture? Yeah, so this is my first time on Twitch too. I used to stream a little bit on YouTube, and I was just familiar with YouTube, like I think everyone is because we've all been using it for so long. I think it was hard for me to figure out how Twitch worked, but then I got used to it, which I think is with any application, people get used to it. And then I kind of figured it out. So I think it's okay. I think it could use, as with anything, a lot of improvement. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. Question is, what's my portfolio site? Okay, Matt got that for me. Yeah, I like Twitch too. The dashboard side of it for me is a lot better. It just is more organized. It has more data. I can customize things a little bit better. So I like Twitch as somebody promoting and actually putting the live stream on. So far so good. Awesome questions. Thanks, Matt. Matt is a moderator in the chat right now, just to help everybody with any questions or anything like that. He's also my brother, so he will report back to me. Now, I trust him to curate this chat and this community with me. So he's in there, and he can answer questions if I miss something, and just help keep the community, I don't know, the growing in the direction we want it to. Kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier. Awesome. Good questions. So I guess before we hop in here, and I'm gonna pull up my Google Chrome here. So I've put together like a little Trello board with a very nice background, I think. I don't know, I like using the photos instead of the colors just because it's a little more, I don't know, aspirational, puts in a nice mindset. But one thing what I want to answer is like, why have a portfolio in the first place? I operate in the tech sphere. I'm an instructor. I don't know if I said this earlier. I'm the one of the UX instructors at Lambda School, so user experience instructors. And so I operate in a design and tech bubble. But I really do believe that a portfolio is a really incredible universal tool. And if you're in business or marketing, or you're not in this like sort of tech sphere that I'm in, it can be a really incredible tool for you as you go out into the world as a way to sort of present yourself. And a couple of reasons why I like portfolios is, first off, it shows you care. It shows that you've put the time and the energy into thinking about who you are as a person and what you bring to the table. And so when you go into like a job search or an interview scenario, you can start from there, and people can already build a positive impression about you and your abilities and the value you bring. And I keep saying this, like the value you bring, that's really what this is all about. It's a value sharing exercise to show people that, okay, not only is this person, not only do they have a resume and they have experience, they've demonstrating how they are executing and delivering results to organizations or in all these different contexts. And so that's, I think, what really excites me about a portfolio, is because it demonstrates all of this. It signals to everybody who's looking at it that, hey, this person not only has thought about themselves, but they're sharing with me how they can come into my organization and immediately make an impact on day one in the way that I would hope that they do it. And the other thing that I really like about it is when you own your portfolio, when you try to design it yourself and code it yourself, it allows you to construct your own narrative. So like everybody's got a LinkedIn. I'm trying to think of like all the platforms I've had to do this on. I've got a LinkedIn, I'm on AngelList, I've got a Product Hunt, I'm on Twitter, but like that's other people's software. And if you look at like a LinkedIn profile versus a LinkedIn profile, the content is changing, sure, but everybody kind of has their own way of, you're kind of boxed into kind of the way they do it. GitHub, another good example. You're boxed into how that software operates. Whereas here, if you like design your own portfolio, you really have an opportunity to construct the narrative in your way and show your individuality, and show who you are and why that matters. And so that's why I'm a big fan of developing your own portfolio. And so that's kind of my case, my pitch for this. Awesome. And so within the world of portfolios, you can make a lot of different types. I know on Twitter, I was posting a lot on Twitter about this before we got the ball rolling, just to drum up some interest, see if there was interest, kind of that lean startup approach. And someone asked, is there, I don't have any content or anything for my portfolio to be about. Like, what's the use of portfolio to me? And that's a really valid question. I think like as somebody who's new to the industry or new to code or design in general, that's a super valid question. So the answer to that is there are different types of portfolios. There's like a one-pager like professional summary, and we'll take a look at one of those because I'm really inspired by one of them. There's also there are options out there for you if you don't have the work to showcase. That still signals, I think, all the positive benefits we talked about earlier. That kind of says, hey, this is somebody who cares enough about who they are and their values as a professional, and they're making the effort to kind of explain to whoever's looking at this website who they are and the value they're bringing. The other kind of portfolios are there's some that are more sort of content focused. People who blog, who make videos, who do talks. I find myself falling into this category. So I haven't blogged in a while, but I do make some videos. I do this live stream. I give some talks at meetups. So I kind of fall into this more content focused producer, creator category. And so there are portfolios that kind of focus on that dynamic. And then there are more project-focused portfolios. And I find like developers really tend to have project-focused portfolios where it's like case studies and here are code pens and examples of what I've done or repositories of work that I've done, really kind of illustrating the work that has been completed and how you brought value to whatever that project is. And then, of course, there's like a hybrid, right? There's people who have some projects they want to highlight, who produce content, who kind of have a summary up top, and so pick and choose different pieces of this. So I've got to make a decision in these early days here, kind of the direction I want my portfolio to kind of evolve into. I'm leaning right now towards more of a content-focused hybrid with a little bit of a project emphasis because of some legal things and my poor record keeping over the years. I don't have tons of project material that I can bring to the fore and highlight in a case study. I might have one or two projects though that I can talk about. Again, it's up to you to find a balance. I do though have like 30 blog posts, a YouTube channel full of videos, talks that I've given, videos of that. So I'm interested to sort of explore how I can present myself in sort of a content-focused way. And so this brings up an interesting point. I'm really going to kind of talk through everything I'm thinking about in this project, but I am going to focus on me just because that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. If you've got questions, though, about generally how to create a portfolio, I'm super happy to answer them. If you've got really hyper-specific questions about your case and it might not be generally applicable to everybody, feel free to like DM me on Twitter or tweet at me. Hopefully I can answer them and help you get to the answer you're looking for a little bit easier when it's more of a one-on-one environment like that. Thank you for the follow. I need to really figure that out so I can call that out. I need to work on my color contrast there. But thank you, whoever that was. Another one. Wow, this is awesome. Thank you, everyone. So what was I saying here? So DM me if you've kind of got a really specific question about your own portfolio or you're stuck somewhere. I'm happy to help. For more general questions, feel free to throw them in chat. And if you feel like your specific question is applicable to other people, throw it in chat as well. That would be awesome. Right on. And yeah, we can kind of just talk about all the different types here. So let's see here. So we're in Trello, and let's see. So I've kind of got a very brief. I'll get rid of this bar here. Very minimalistic, I would say, project management flow here. And this is actually taken mostly from like Amy Hoy, and she does like 30 by 500, all that good stuff. And so this is, I think, the simplest sort of flow you can have. You kind of have your backlog of to-dos, anything you're doing, and then I like seeing all of the things that I've done. It really makes me feel like I'm making progress in a project, and that's something that Amy talks about in her writing a lot. So I have a done column just so I can be like, oh, look at all the stuff I've accomplished. And that when on those days where I'm like, I don't want to work on this, it's like, oh, the done column, like, look how much I've accomplished. I could just move one more thing over. It really motivates me. Question came in, what are your thoughts on using something like GitHub Pages as a portfolio? I think a GitHub page is fine. Obviously, when you can, I think you can do this with GitHub Pages now. You add your own URL. If that works for you, that's fine. And there's a spectrum here, I recognize, of people's coding abilities and ability to create their own website. Some folks are more design focused. Other people are more code focused. Some people have no experience. And so and this is kind of what I want to talk about today a little bit more. Like, the content is really the important part. How you're selling yourself, how you're presenting yourself to the world, that's what really matters. And so if you can nail down that part of the equation, like, the method that you're choosing to present yourself in matters a little bit less. As long as you have probably a unique URL is probably the most important part of that. So you can be like, hey, I've got a website. And people, I think, can figure it out from there. So if you don't have the coding chops to do what I'm going to get into the coding later not today, but I do want to code this out on the live stream as well, so you could kind of follow along and see how I'm doing it. And I do want to go through my full design process and show you how I sit down with Sketch and go through this whole process. So I'm hopefully you'll get some exposure to this. But if GitHub Pages works for you, use GitHub Pages. If Squarespace or Wix or any of those other website builders works for you, use that. If I'm going to talk about blogging probably a lot, because that's what I like to do. If I'm probably going to build my own blog again, because that works for me. If Medium or WordPress or even Drupal, if that works for you, use that. I'm really tool agnostic and approach agnostic, as long as you have a narrative that is compelling and works and really presents yourself in a way that highlights your skills and your abilities. So those are kind of my general thoughts on that. Really nice question, though. Awesome. So where were we? Okay, so to-dos. So today, I'm going to add a card in here. I want to focus on my vision and my narrative. I'll make those two separate cards. So kind of vision, and I could probably break this up even further, but I'm going to put this like in brackets here. Just for my own. I could put a label. So those of you who don't know, it seems like some folks have never used Trello before. You can kind of come in here. You've got you've got a swim lane essentially, and then lists within that, and then you can add cards to that, and you can add labels to cards. I'm not going to go ahead and thank you for the follow there. I'm not going to add labels right now. Maybe we'll get back to that. So for my vision, what I want to do is review my existing website. What else do I want to do? Kind of talked about this already. I want to research how other designers are presenting themselves. That's probably not the best way to phrase that. Research other portfolios / personal websites for inspiration. Essentially inspiration. Awesome. And then what else do I want to think about? This kind of comes later, but how do I want to present myself to the world? And this kind of gets into like the visual aesthetic, but also like and content wise. Awesome. Cool. So that's kind of like at a high level what I think my vision is going to look like there. Anyone else? Am I missing anything? Does anyone think there's other stuff that we could talk about in the vision for this? Or is there something else here? How is vision different than narrative, or are they the same thing? That's a good question. So narrative is kind of the phrase that I use to define like what is my personal story, and how I want to communicate that to the world. Whereas vision is probably a little bit more focused on like maybe the visual aesthetic and the content management, sort of like the content strategy, and that's starting to step a little bit more into like the design solution space. And sort of like how do I want to approach this project and begin to present myself? So narrative focus more on like what is the story I'm here to tell, and then vision, how am I going to tell that story to the rest of the world? So honestly, I did this backwards. We should have started with a narrative, but we can reorder these cards. No problem. So narrative. My first question whenever I approach a project or anything like this, who is my audience? That is the user experience and lean startup fanatic in me. Kind of, who am I doing this for? If you don't know who your audience is, like you're never going to be able to connect to them. And if you can't connect to them, there's really no value in what you're trying to say. That's a bold statement, I know, but that's at least how I feel about it. So we'll consider that. That's going to be a fun question. I'm going to spend some more time brainstorming what I'm calling personal labels. And that's kind of what I kind of did a little bit of that earlier today when I was saying like I'm a product manager and UX designer and full stack engineer. Those are labels that we all talk about and like understand, and everyone probably has like 20 to 30, maybe even like 50. I don't really know what that number is going to look like until I start brainstorming. But from there, we can start chunking and grouping them and really kind of get a better sense of who we are as a person. And that's what we want to communicate to people. So I have a question here. I sometimes get lost in research, then end up getting distracted and digging. Am I the only one? How do you avoid this if you do this too? Yeah, really nice question. You can really kind of get sucked down the rabbit hole of research and thinking. I always feel like I kind of come to a natural point. With this project, like, this can take as long as I want it to. There's no deadlines here. There's nothing. And that's, I think, what everyone's portfolio. Kind of a double-edged sword there. Everyone has almost infinite time to work on their own portfolio, but at the same time, you want to get it out there eventually so you can start getting feedback and seeing if it works for you. So this project in particular, I would spend as much time on the narrative as you need and really, really get creative, really explore on it. Like really feel like, I don't know. I think this is like finding out about yourself and who you are is such an important part of your portfolio, but also like who you want to be within your own career, that this is just like a useful exercise anyway. Is it wise to set deadlines anyway? Sure. Like if I was going to spend time researching other portfolios, personal websites, I'll probably do that for like 30 minutes and see what I can come up with, and then filter back into my research, my labels. Does this change anything? Any of the language I was using? Overall, I probably won't spend more than, I know it's hard to say at the beginning for this, but a couple hours. Maybe I'll do 8 or 12 hours of research on this kind of a project. But yeah, I don't really have a set deadline in my portfolio research, if that makes sense, because it's such a personal project. But for, obviously in work, you have real deadlines. This feels more up to you. So yeah. So if deadlines help you and work for you, someone mentioned the Pomodoro method, like that I think are really good strategies for how you could kind of ask yourself, do I need more research? And I guess that's another good point. You can always check in with yourself and say like, all right, like kind of use that Pareto principle. I've done a bit of work here. Does doing more work lead to like increasing or diminishing returns for me? And or how can I really start to think like, okay, is more effort here worth my time, or is it time for me to move on, learn something, come back to my research? And that's all part of this equation. Like what we're trying to get out of the research are questions and things we can start designing around, and that leads to learning, and then maybe we come back to the research. So it can be a really iterative and fluid process. And that's kind of what I want to get at here today. I've seen a few things. Thank you for the follow, whoever that was. That's what really frustrates me with a lot of like the tutorials out there, and like, this is how you design a portfolio. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. No one's talking about that messy middle where you have to do all this work and there's no, it's kind of wishy-washy and fluid. So that's kind of what I want to do with the live stream is I'm only going to work on this project when I'm on the stream. And so you guys can see everything that I'm working towards here. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but good question. Thank you. So narrative, brainstorming, my personal labels, awesome. And then still in the narrative, it's kind of a big question here. What do I want to communicate about myself to my audience? And because this will be public facing, because this will be a website, also consider the world. yes, I will have a targeted audience for whom this is for, but anyone can get to any website, and hopefully it will be accessible to them. And then finally, kind of looping back here, synthesizing a lot of this into what is my unique value proposition. And that's that two phrase, like this is who I am in a nutshell, my elevator pitch of me. And when you can synthesize everything into that's the tagline for your website. That can inform a lot of more information for you. So once you can distill everything to there, you're, I feel like, a really good shape to build everything out. So I'm actually going to move these down a little bit, kind of in the order I want to do them. I want to think about who is my audience, and I'm going to review my existing website. I'll do some brainstorming. Yeah, I think this will be good in this order, kind of like this. Awesome. So who is my audience? And I'm actually going to go into my Google Docs here. I know I like Google Docs as a platform, but also kind of a way to organize my thoughts. We'll just make that like that. And then, that's not what I wanted. I want a title here. And so I'm just going to call this portfolio, I don't know, discovery, kind of loosely following our product design cycle here. And then for my next header, what are we doing here? What's the question? Who is my audience? Awesome. And I'm actually going to bump spelling. You guys will see that I'm not great at spelling. We'll get there. Apply normal text. Awesome. So who's my audience? So I feel like I'm going to have a few different people for my audience. I feel like a lot of people aren't great at spelling. I don't know. That's just a general observation. Some people are really good at it, but that is not me. I'm okay. I use that Grammarly plugin. I don't know if y'all see this. And it's really helped me get a little bit better at it. We'll just name that. So definitely, like, the key purpose of Portfolio is to use it as a hiring tool, as a way to present yourself within your job hunt. So hiring managers. Well, that's why I wanted to bump it up. That's not working. What's going on? There we go. Okay. Hiring managers, they're definitely part of the equation. And that kind of like is the general, I don't know, I guess potential employers. It's kind of this bucket of people who might look at this. Future bosses, coworkers. Your coworkers. So they're definitely part of the audience, right? And they're, I think, for a lot of people, the primary audience. We can segment our audience a little bit, but definitely part of the audience here, and definitely the main focus. I'm probably a little different because I focus so much on my content production. So my audience might be a little bit different than what other people's are. But I have a blog audience that I've kind of curated over the last year or so. And there, I typically write about code, but I also want to write a little bit more about design as well. So this would be developers, and I'm actually going to add the frameworks that I typically write about. So I write about Laravel, I write about Vue.js, that should be a period, Vue.js, I write about Tailwind CSS, etc. So at any time we're thinking about our audience, the more specific we can be, it's much easier for us to then like target our content or our overall marketing and social media approach to that audience. If you just say developers, that's thousands, millions of people potentially across the world, right? It's just so vague and such a, I don't know, huge term. But all of a sudden I say like Tailwind CSS developers. Well, Tailwind's a new framework. It's only been out for like a year and a half. That's probably like a couple hundred people, and I can have a conversation with a couple hundred people, or at least I can reach out to them. So anytime we can really focus and target our audience, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. And then designers. So this is going to be a little bit vaguer because I don't really know yet who I want to be talking to, but definitely like people with a UX focus. So I'm a college student, have nothing under my belt. How do I get started? Same way I got started. You just have to start doing stuff. There's no the way to start is to start. But that's a really good question, right? We get intimidated, right, by what is out there, and it's like, oh, look at all these super smart people. They're all writing blog posts. That's how I felt when I was writing my first blog post. I was like, there's no way. Like I'm operating in this Laravel community, and I write in that community now. And there are really smart people. There's like Adam Watham. There's like Eric Barnes. There's like so many other people who already exist in this community, and they're writing and they're putting out all of these great projects. In like the Vue.js community, there's like Chris Fritz and Sarah Edo and Evan Yu. Like everyone out there is like, wow, these people are brilliant. How am I gonna like step into this world? It's really intimidating. But what I came to realize is like we're all on a journey towards learning. And we're all kind of learning different things, right? Like for me, for instance, like I kind of blend this world of UX and development, kind of that unicorn-esque sort of world. And so I always think to myself, like, can I pull something from UX and talk about it in the developing world, like the developers world, and sort of do some cross-pollination? Like, so I've thought about how do I identify areas where I'm unique and have value. And how do I talk about that sort of world? And then I've also said, like, okay, what are problems that I've faced, and how can I talk about how I've solved them? And that was originally what my blog was about. It was like really simple. Like I built a calendar app, not app, but like component within a bigger project. And so I said, like, oh, that's a really interesting development challenge because there's a lot of JavaScript that goes on there and a lot of other things that go on there. And it's like, all right, like, let me write about this problem and how I solved it and kind of see what other people think about it. As a college student, I'm thinking back to my own college days. So I studied economics and banking finance, and those were my majors, so nothing at all to do with technology. But I was doing some entrepreneurial things, and I wish I had started my blog in my portfolio in college because that would have been such a help when I graduated and was trying to get a job. I kind of just went out into the world with a resume and was like, look at me, I've got a degree, hire me. I didn't get hired. It's that simple. I had to go and learn to code and learn and work in some startups where they were kind of like, we're not going to pay you that much, but you might get some equity here. But I had to take sort of these opportunities as they came because I hadn't built up how I was going to sell myself. And it ended up working okay. Like I'm here today, and I learned a lot, and that was a big part of that experience. But so when you're starting, really think about like, okay, like what am I majoring in? What am I interested in? How can I write about this in a way for people that are learning behind me? And here's the crazy thing, and this is like the secret sauce. You know more than somebody else who is starting right now, right? So you as a college student, I don't know what year you are, but you could be, you at least have spent more time at college than somebody who is starting today. And you could write a blog for them, right? You could write a blog post detailing your college experience up to that point for that person. And then all of a sudden, you could write a couple of those. And that's where like you could then you've A, identified an audience, and B, you're writing to that audience, or you're gearing your online presence for that audience. And then when you get out of school and you get hired, or you're in your job search and people look at your portfolio and they say, wow, they wrote a lot of blog posts trying to help underclassmen or freshmen get a leg up in the world. That shows like management potential. If you do a good job with your writing, it shows that you're a clear thinker and you can think logically and you can write well. Those are like, if I honestly had to pick one skill for people as a hiring, than someone who is hiring, if you can write well and you're a clear communicator, 9 times out of 10, if you have the skill set we're looking for, you're going to get hired over somebody who doesn't have that skill set, right? So that's where I would start with this. A blog to start about your journey learning to code. Someone was saying, Greg, a blog about that journey was awesome because on that journey, you might help the next person who's like, hey, I don't know where to start. Where do I go with this? And so that really what we need to do out there is kind of think about where, and this is this whole exercise, right? How am I unique, and where can I find opportunities to present some content to the world. And anytime you have content out there, people can see it and say, wow, this person, A, is showing a lot of effort. They're showing a lot of hustle, and that's the kind of person people want to hire. And so that's a little bit more into that. So where do you start? You start today. You sketch out an outline for something. If you don't do anything, if you don't start, if you don't work on this, kind of like going back to the six-pack abs thing I was talking about earlier, no one walks into the gym on day one and then says, I'm going to have six-pack abs today walking out of here. You've got to put the time and the effort and the investment into yourself in order for you to end up with something worthwhile. Excuse me. Let's see here. Someone was asking for like Lambda School advice next starting. Yeah, I think this is the Lambda School curriculum in particular is really geared towards students, and we're adding more and more career support and help, and your career advisors are going to help you put all this together and really work on it. But just start that first day. Make it a habit. Set up your Medium blog. Don't worry about the code. Just get the content out there. You can transfer all of those blog posts to your website when you know how to build it. Just get the content out there. Make that a habit. Those are the kind of things that I'm telling people, because that's what really matters. Anybody who knows how can build a website that can show all this content, right? But very few people, it seems to me, build a habit around writing, around presenting themselves. So that's what I would say there. So we have gone on quite a tangent here, but that's great. This is what I want to talk about with people. I think it's like I think everybody's having these questions, like, where do I start? Where do I begin? Where do I get going? I've fortunately done that already. I kind of have some momentum. I've gotten started. Obviously, we've got some sort of a brand here. That's why we've got 35 people looking here, viewing. I'm very happy you're all here instead of 2 people, like it was the very first time I tried to live stream, right? So that's been awesome for me to see that growth, but it starts from doing things and just putting stuff out there. And day 1 is going to be one person's going to give you a thumbs up. And then day 2, it might be 2 people, or maybe you're back down to 0. But it's it's like compounding interest, right? It's the accumulation of content over time that that really, really helps you out. And then by the time you're done, like if you blogged once a week on the Lambda curriculum, so that's we're going up to 9 months now. Like, think about that. So that's 9 times 4. Ooh, that's like 36. Yeah, 36 blog posts. If any new grad came to me in the hiring process versus like another grad, one grad has 36 blog posts and the other grad doesn't, I'm looking at the person with 36 blog posts saying, wow, they've really put a lot of effort into this. They put a lot of thought process into this. They're demonstrating their logic. It's almost a no-brainer which person you would end up hiring. So make it a habit. Do it day 1. And let it grow from there. And I'm talking a lot about writing because that's what I know how to do. This can be code, right? Day 1, you're going to learn some HTML, CSS. That night, you're going to work on a project. In your after time, I know it's a lot of time, but spend a little bit of time like, hey, maybe I can code something. Maybe I can put together a little something, throw it on CodePen, and then I'll have a CodePen link. And then the next day do that. And then all of a sudden you have a GitHub repo. And then it just shows that you are putting in the effort to master this skill set that you can then show to someone and say, hey, look what I built. Look what I did. It's okay that it's relatively simplistic or it's not this huge advanced project. You're demonstrating that you have an understanding of the fundamentals, and that's what people want to see. So go for it. Just start today and start doing stuff. I always think of what's Shia LaBeouf, like the "just do it" kind of meme that became, but that's so true. Awesome. Yeah, GitHub and CodePen. Yeah, sorry, I might say things that if you're new to coding, it's like, what the heck is he talking about? Call me out on that. I'd love to explain it some more for you. But yeah, thanks, Greg. I'm going to hold you to that now. So yeah, GitHub is how we sort of this would be too much of a tangent. Basically, a way for you to keep all of your. It's kind of like a saving system, kind of like here that it kind of does an autosave. And Google Docs, it's kind of like that, but for your code. You will learn if you're going to Lambda, you are going to learn it, and it's going to be one of those skills you can walk away with. CodePen is a really small way to kind of have a encapsulated environment to start coding and hacking on things really quickly. So it's a really cool tool where you don't need a full development environment to start building something. Excuse me. Alrighty. Yeah, that's super true. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. That is a trick I learned very late in my career to kind of say like, okay, here's step 1 of the project and here's step 3 and 6. Definitely take screenshots, take little, write little journal posts to yourself. These kind of things will really help you when you're like trying to like, I remember where we started, but I don't remember that like one design artifact that I did. I can't show it now in my case study. Take little notes for yourself and take little screenshots and kind of tuck it away, demonstrating that progress of how a project has moved. I do have some screenshots of like, this was the before and this was the after, and that's good, right? Because you can kind of say like, oh, I stepped in this project, I did this, and this is how it improved. But if you could be like, here are like the 10 things I did along the way, and here's a screenshot of each of them, that's like, wow, that's awesome. You're really showing your process. And we'll get into that when we start working on our case studies. I've got to think about those a little bit more, so we'll see. But anyway here, so who is my audience? Well, we have the blog audience, we have the hiring managers audience, kind of that employer set. I'm just going to call that. I'm actually going to copy this because I think that's a good descriptor. Too many commas. Awesome. All right, so we've got my blog audience here. What other audience do we have? So we've got this live stream audience, right? I think you guys are part of my future audience, hopefully. Hope you guys come back. Like I said, we're going to try and do this on Saturdays, kind of same time, same place. So yes, that's all part of the equation. So I'm going to call this like other content, because I do have a couple of other piece of content that I produce. So other content audience. Let's think here. So we've got Twitch. I do some YouTube stuff as well. No, YouTube. There we go. Oh, thank you. Really appreciate that. I've got to change my Tech Elliot. Thank you, Techie Elliot. Sorry. Really appreciate that. This is a great. Thank you. You're cool. Like this is. Let's be positive. Let's be nice to each other. I'm sick and tired of being in like comment sections where everyone's just being super mean to everybody. It's like, come on, let's be nice. It doesn't cost anything. Let's all be awesome to each other. So awesome. Let's keep doing it. So let's do Twitch, and thank you, Tech Elliot. I really appreciate that. So what was I gonna say? Twitch, YouTube. What else do we have here? I've got a newsletter. So sometimes those folks, they're typically vlog consumers as well, but they sometimes might come to the website. Although I did it consistently for a year, and saw some really great growth. And then the holidays hit this year, and I fell off the bandwagon. So I need to get back on my newsletter. Hopefully, when I re-release this portfolio, I can be like, hey, this is it. So let's and reignite that spark. So I've got my newsletter here. I do some in-person talks at meetups. I have not done a conference yet. That's on the dream one day. Thank you for the follow, whoever that was. I need to get. I'm sorry. I need to figure out either there's a way for me to see that coming in or not. I install an extension so I can thank everybody properly. But thank you for the 24 folks who have subscribed or followed. I really appreciate that. In-person meetup talks. So that's kind of my other content. So here's so the interesting thing with all this content. Someone asked, am I recording this? Yes, I am recording this, and this is going to be on it'll be on Twitch for like 14 days, and then I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel, which is down in the About section. So right under the video, you should be able to get a link to that. And if you subscribe to that channel, you'll get the updates when that goes, when I post those. So I'm just going to make a bucket for, I don't remember what it's called on YouTube. Learned a lot of Twitch in the last couple of days. But yeah, I'll make a bucket for that as well. Hello, welcome. Thank you. Wow, a lot of activity here. Awesome. So this is my audience generally in a nutshell. There might be other people here. I don't really know. Somebody else is hosting me. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So let's see here. But yeah, so this is everybody else. Your link to YouTube is up. It should be in the About section on this not portfolio. We're talking about portfolio. On the Lambda not Lambda. Gosh, I'm all over the place. Sorry, on Twitch, if you look at my profile, we can do that now. This will get real meta. Hopefully it won't break. Okay, so if you go down to here, YouTube archive, or here, you can get links to YouTube. And then if we look over here, thank you. Thanks, Matt. I've got some past content here. Why won't you scroll? Okay. So I did another thing where I was building an e-commerce store. I was live streaming that. And then a talk that I gave at Laravel Austin. I don't think it's actually 2 hours. That seems long. But let's see here. Anyway. Do I have a UI UX background or engineering? I have. Oh, this is too early. We're not going to look at that yet. I have both. So I'm a UX designer, also a full stack engineer. So my background originally was economics, banking, finance, so business. But I like to think that was a great education in systems thinking. Then I went into startup land, started designing, got really into UX, and then I was like, I can draw the thing, why can't I build it? So I really started getting into being an engineer. Got a few engineering jobs, so I've worked across the stack, mostly working in PHP, Laravel, all that good stuff. But yeah, that's a little bit of my background in a nutshell, and what exposure I have. Let's see. Hi, hello everyone who's joining. Great to see everybody hopping on in. So this is my audience. We've been on the audience for a while, and I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth here. I hope it doesn't feel too sort of unorganized or discombobulated for the people who've been watching. But I like talking to the chat. I think that's why we're live streaming, and we're not I'm not just recording these and putting them out there. So that's the value there. But overall, this is kind of the audience that I want to go for, right? So I've got these potential employers, the hiring managers who I'm presenting myself to in the future. I've got my blog audience, and they're sort of my primary content audience. So these are like the developers and the designers who I'm writing for. And then my other content, so like I would have loved to be able to put up like my Twitch stream like when I'm streaming. So that would be a really cool way to drive traffic back to Twitch. So again, putting on my marketing hat a little bit, my social media hat. Like I'm always thinking about how you can connect people back and forth and around each other. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate that feedback. Oh, there's also a suggestions box while I'm thinking about it on my channel here. So if you guys have suggestions and say like, okay, I want you to focus on this a little bit more, or this was good, but you can work on this, tell me. Otherwise I won't know. And I'll just keep doing it the way you don't like. And I want to be flexible, and learn. That's the UX designer in me. This is user first, right? We're focusing, and I can't learn without the feedback, and I'll probably interview a few people to reach out to a few people to interview and kind of get their feedback too. But anyway, what was I talking about here? So driving content, people to all my various forms of content. And then there's probably like the general audience, the rest of the world. Always good to think about it, like kind of have it on the list here. But who knows? Who knows who that could be? So like writing it, I guess I should say general audience, like the English speakers in the rest of the world, because I'm not going to translate this, which is an interesting part of it. I guess you're right. Thank you for that. The Lambda sphere. I do have Lambda students who probably look at my portfolio and say, who is this guy? Does he know what he's talking about? Lambda sphere. Why does everyone aspire for a six-figure salary? I don't know, because I guess more money is better. Generally, that's how our culture operates. Students, other instructors, potential partners. Yeah, these are all good people. Cool. I'll have to take a look at that. We can open that up here. I don't know. I found more money, less problems. Generally, maybe not all the way true, but a little bit different than what other folks are looking for, though. Go for it. If you want to share this with anyone, please do. I'd love if you guys share it with your friends. We get more people in here. We get more questions. We talk to more people. A little I always think diversity of thought and diversity of people is just the best way to go. Oh, that's a good question. OMG 6 figures. I think because it's relative to what people are used to. And I think that's a beautiful part of the Lambda experience, right? A lot of folks coming into Lambda do not operate in a world where 6-figure salaries are the norm. And so when they see that, hey, this is really happening for people, it's like, oh, yeah, this is really happening for people. This is real. And so that's why I think people are like, OMG 6 figures. Even I'm like, I know it's a standard, but still, like that's a ton of money. And so it's kind of like a mental threshold for people. And so people get excited about that. So that would be my take, in this world and why people get excited for it. It's people are anchored mentally to a lower number. And so when you break that 6-figure threshold, people get excited. And I think that's great. Awesome. Students, instructors, potential partners. Great. So that's my audience. I feel pretty good about this. Thank you for the suggestion on the Lambdasphere. That's really true. Depends on where you are, right? Yeah, there's a regionality. Yeah, 6 figures in the Bay Area is not going as far as it does in Austin, Texas. Yeah, that's true. But 6 figures is still a lot of money. I think anywhere you go these days. Who knows? Maybe. I guess that gets into purchasing power parity and inflation and all these fun things. Putting on my econ degree again, which I haven't used in years. Thank you. But good to think about. Yeah. I think it would depend on where you are, but I still think people are not thinking within that mindset. So regardless of where they are, it still feels like you're getting higher. You're getting into a higher threshold of salary making. Tried to Orlando this year, but really complicated for me. Yeah, life is hard. I get that. Life is hard for me and everybody, and I think that's just part of life. But we'd love to have you if you want to join Lambda. That would be really awesome. To have you there if you can get it figured out and it works for your situation. That would be really awesome to have you. Is it encouraged to share your whole Envision account with all your projects? Because some I am not proud of. No. I would never share my whole Envision account because some stuff is for me. It's stuff that I've worked on and prototyped. You really want to curate your portfolio to show your best side of you, and we'll talk about that as I start curating some things for me. So what was I going to say? So with your portfolio, you want to show the best of the best, and you don't want to show everything. I think that's like. A lot of people get into like this mindset of like, I've got to dump everything into here. And it's like, you don't. You have to highlight the 2 or 3 best projects you've ever done. And then people can say like, oh, I can see that potential, right? So you don't want to just dump everything. You want to curate that as much as possible. Yeah, next year will be your Lambda year. I really hope for it. I teach UX design at Lambda School. So haven't heard of any grads in Chicago yet. Higher work and I'll see boot camp you. Interesting, Kyle. I think we do have. I know we've got Lambda staff in Chicago. I don't know if we have any students. I feel like we do have students in Chicago. But if you want to connect with Jeff Henriot on Twitter, he can hook you up with our hiring program. Same with Ryan Holdaway. They can both hook you up as well. And I feel like we do have folks in Chicago. They just might not have seen your posting yet. But yeah, I think we do. Cool. So awesome. We've kind of got our portfolio nailed down. If you guys want to do a company presentation, we're doing those all the time now. So that would be awesome. Right on. Okay, so who's my audience? Nice. So let's move that over to done. And isn't that nice? It's just kind of a nice mental, like this is, thank you for the follow. What was I going to say here? So yeah, so just a nice mental model to just kind of say like, okay, done, I'm ready to go. Sorry for getting declined there. Just keep on applying. I know the admissions process is getting more and more selective because we're seeing incredible numbers. And so we need to grow at a way. Thank you for sharing Ryan's Twitter. That's the guy to talk to about jobs and everything. But yeah, I know Lambda is growing like crazy, and it's just we need to scale in a way that kind of makes everybody successful, including our students. And so I think a consequence of that is the admissions getting a little bit tighter than it used to be. Okay, so now we've got to review my existing website. That's what we have lined up here now. So kind of with that audience in mind, though. So let me make that half the page. And we'll that should have been a new window. Cool. I feel like we're the Harvard of boot camps. I think that's a fair assessment. Nick J. Basile, which will redirect. Actually, we'll look at it full screen. So this is why. Oh, bummer. Yeah, I would reach out to admissions. I'm not on that side of the system. I'm on the instruction side, but best of luck. I would reach out to them and see what they're talking about. Okay, so this is my current website, and overall, it still works. But I've changed a lot over the last 3 years, and I haven't really kept this as updated as I wanted it to. And I think I can redesign this to be a little bit better, but it's passable for now. So I don't feel like this is a quote unquote like dumpster fire or anything like that. Like I feel like I can keep it up for as long as I need to while I'm working on this new, better, improved one. My very first portfolio was terrible, or at least I felt it was. It was probably okay, but So I started applying for jobs. I was like, I need to get a new one, stat. And that's where this one came out of. So my original UVP was or unique value proposition. Hello, I'm Nick Basile. That's kind of a common parlance. I'm a web and business artisan. That's kind of borrowing. Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of a cool phrase. I think I've grown beyond this now. I have more skills that I want to highlight. But it's a cool phrase. And this artisan kind of word comes from the Laravel community. It was originally, I think I still bill it as like a framework for artisans. And that's where like that language came from for me. So I was really stoked to talk about that. And then I've got my career portfolio blog, so links, and those are all different pages. So links for people to go to. And then my expertise. And something, this gets into design a little bit. So I've got the nice angle there, kind of drawing people down the page a little bit more, and then my expertise to show that there's more content on the page, that you should scroll it. I don't love sites that like show the little arrow or the scroll bar, because it feels like you're adding something that your design could naturally be instructing the user to do. And so that's why I like showing content as opposed to like adding, like forcing the affordance by dropping an arrow or something like that. So my expertise, so at the time, UI UX design, development, business were the three skills that I was trying to highlight. And those all link to my career page, which we'll take a look at in a second. Latest thoughts. This was kind of a cool section. I really, so like the top part of this website, like I'm kind of like, man, this kind of looks, I don't know. It feels generic at this point in time. When I released it, it felt really fresh. But this part down here, I feel really nice about. Like this is a pretty unique, I think, presentation of this information. So maybe how can I keep this in here? But I have my tweets. So this is just live from my Twitter, which we're live. Like that was an hour ago. And then these are some blog posts, which I can increase the affordance on. I feel weird highlighting skills on a persona site more so with like my projects just to speak to that. I think that's definitely something interesting to consider. Like and that comes back to like how do we want to present ourselves and communicate about ourselves. But at this point in time, I thought my skills were what I wanted to highlight. Gotta go, super valuable. Can't see. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll be doing these hopefully every weekend. So thanks for tuning in for now. And yeah, the YouTube will be up. About me, so just a little bit of personality here. I thought stacking these was a really interesting design. Something I actually got a lot of inspiration from. There was a website of a restaurant group who did something like this, and I was like, wow, that looks super awesome. So let me try and repurpose it for my own needs. So just a little bit about me, a way to get in touch, social links. This is that newsletter I was talking about, so kind of have a sign up on every page, which it kind of feels out of place, honestly, on this landing page. So kind of rethinking that a little bit more. And then links here. Anyway. And then the end. And then I've got some nice little effects here. Thanks for the follow and all that good stuff. So yeah, so this was the landing page. And we can hop over to the career page. I had a little loading icon here because I couldn't get the view to render fast enough. I know how to fix that now. And this is just kind of a catalog of my my work, and then also the other all the skills I use in those roles. So this is just kind of an interesting way for me to present this information. And then there really isn't an affordance for this, but if you click on it, you can get a little bit of an about and the details. And then if there are any projects in my portfolio, they link here. So you can kind of like have a relationship between the work that I was doing and then the projects I did. And so there's a lot here that I really like. I liked these filters up top, so you can kind of see that's a lot like where I worked abroad, like award winning. We got some awards at Metric Loop. What was a startup company versus what was an established company. I don't have Lambda School on here. I don't think. No, not yet. So he's like I haven't really kept it updated. Where I did more strategy work, where I did more code work. The spiderweb. Yeah, people were asking about the spiderweb graphics. How did I do those? I don't remember. I used like an off-the-shelf kind of graphing tool. I remember it being really hard, and because I didn't know as much about code as I do now, but it took me a long time to figure it out. But I do like it, right? It's a really interesting way to present what you've done in that world or in a role. So I do think it's an interesting way to present yourself for sure. So that's something I want to make sure that I continue. And then this, like, I could have worked on the contrast between these two. And there's a button here to download my resume, which I'm sure is probably terribly out of date. Yeah, it is. So I would actually, no, that's pretty, I think that is up to date. This is what my resume looks like for those who are interested. And obviously I tailor the tagline and stuff to what I'm applying, and this additional experience gets updated relative, and same with the skills, and all this content gets updated regardless to what I'm applying to, or depending upon what I'm applying to. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. But let's go look at the portfolio side. And this is the side of my, like the actual portfolio side, the projects. I always felt kind of doing the same approach here. You can see where I did some CSS work, where I did PHP work. Again, this gets back to like my record keeping abilities, and also a lot of these projects are not they don't exist now. So that's another issue I'm running into. But that is how this one looked. And I built, so I did this backwards the first time I did this. I did the site first, and then I've worked on all my content. And by the time I had published the site live, I was like really tired, and I didn't want to keep working on this. So I never gave my case studies, I think, the work or the effort that they deserved. I'm trying to see if I have one. They all just kind of list these key skills and like the big picture. And now I really think that a case study is such an incredible opportunity to like really talk about what you did. Yeah, this one has a little bit more detail, but like really sell yourself and your abilities. And so I want to spend a lot more time in this iteration of my portfolio thinking about my case studies and how I want to present myself in this context. So this was my portfolio section. Kind of same sort of deal here. Footer, consistent. And then finally, last but not least, we've got the blog. And this is where I keep all my blog posts. How can I help you? This is still up. This should not still be up because I'm no longer offering free coaching. I got a newsletter pop-up, all that good stuff. A lot of blog posts down here. This is what the bottom, the footer looks like. You can filter, so if you hit UX, you can see all the posts about UX. A button to go back would have been nice up here. Something like as I'm reviewing this, it's like, oh, here are all the things I could have done. And then to read a blog post, we've got all the tags. This is kind of what a generic post looks like. Yeah, as you can see, it's all code oriented. This was a kind of a review, and then kind of a looking for more section. This was actually a really big. So I've got my sort of bio here, and that's a little redundant because it's my website, but I just think it's nice to remind people that I wrote it. This actually was huge for me. This looking for more section, because I didn't have it for a long time. So people would come read a blog post and be like, what now? And they'd have to go back to blog. But now I can be like looking for more, and I use it based on the tags. So for instance, this one was a Laravel, Nova, and tutorials. So these three are going to have either tutorials,
or tutorials in it, so, or maybe Laravel too in some of them. So I base it on that. So it kind of shows content that they were interested in already, and just another way to keep them on my site and reading my content. And then finally the blog. So that was the whole, the front end. We can look at the back end here because I think that's kind of interesting as well. So I coded the back end myself, and hang on 1 second while I plug in this password here. Oh, how do I do this? There we go. Just a second. Can't broadcast everything. Let me not talk and type at the same time, otherwise I'm going to make another mistake there. Awesome. Log in. Okay, now we're up. Cool. So everyone can see this now. Hopefully. Let me see here. Where are we at? So this was my dashboard. As you can see, it's not even... I did this on a smaller viewport, I feel like. Yeah. So the responsiveness is not quite there. But I don't really care because this is just for me. Like I said, I've had a lot of signups since my last newsletter because it's been a long time. Yeah, we got 27 posts. So just a little dashboard. And it's got links to like the landing page and then the blog, and then I can log out. And this was just something, again, that I built because I wanted to learn how to do it. So it was a nice learning exercise for me, and a nice, I don't know, like a selling point. Like when I go into an interview, I can say like, oh, I built my whole website. And people were like, oh, let's show me. And so I can sit down and show them. And this is my profile, all that good stuff. I guess we want to see like what a blog post looks like. Updating a blog post. So the delete's up top, so I don't accidentally click it on the bottom. It's just all in Markdown. And then I can, if I write something on another website, I wanted the ability to link it here, so I could do that. Make it active, add tags, and then, again, my media handling could use a little bit of a UX upgrade here, so something to make my life easier. These are all the image files that I have in my site. So yeah, so this was the back end as well, and something to consider when you're developing this. Like if you're making, whatchamacallit, if you're using Medium or something like that, you don't have to worry about this as much. If you're like me and you're really into this and you're an engineer, you can kind of code it on your own. Or you can use something like a package like off the shelf. I'm honestly considering that for this because I I don't want to keep having to maintain this, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to be able to do this. So that was my site. Let me see if I can throw this in here. So kind of my key takeaways, or what do I want to keep talking about with this? So let's go back to heading 1. Site, I don't know why this is off now. Margins are crazy. Cool. Chart.js. Yeah, I think that was it. Thank you for looking that up. That I'm pretty sure was where I grabbed them from. Yeah, something like that. Either that, I couldn't remember if it was that, or D3. Is there an iframe on there? I don't know. I don't remember an iframe. But I haven't looked at the code for this in a long time. How they're using it. Yeah, maybe it was an iframe. I forget my implementation details there. So site review. I think the portfolio case studies need a lot of rework. Blog looks okay. It sounded like the spider charts were cool, so I'm going to make a note of that. Anything else that you guys thought was interesting or that you thought looked good, looked bad? Any kind of feedback, that would be awesome. What else? I thought the landing page was all right. I want to readdress my content priorities there and how I'm presenting myself. That's kind of the whole point of this exercise. That I guess I would technically be more. Yes, back button needed on tags page. Thank you. And the other thing is, I like making notes of these things. Just it's good practice. Like when you review your work, to be like, oh, okay, I missed this or I missed that. What are little things to do? I think the interface. Oh yeah, we can look at the Trello board here in a second. So what was I gonna say? So those interface details are important to make a note of because it's just it can sort of jog your memory and help you kind of think about it again. But at the same time, I am feeling like I'm gonna try to fundamentally redesign this, because it's a good exercise to do, and also hopefully it will help you guys learn a little bit more. So I'm hopefully less concerned about like the minutia of the interface and more about like the big picture stuff here. So the Trello board, we kind of broke, for the folks who are new, who didn't catch this at the beginning, we've just got a to-do list, a doing list, and a done list. We already worked on who my audience is going to be. Right now we're reviewing my existing website. As you can see, we've kind of broken things up into like narrative and vision. That's kind of what we're working on first before we hop into the world of design and code. Narrative being like, what is my story? What am I communicating about myself to the world? And then vision being more, how do I present this to the world? And what is my vision for this project and how I'm going to communicate it? So that is more or less what we're doing here. So, and honestly, where are we here? This is something that's kind of fun. So the title of the page changes, and we've got too many tags up here. So if I go here, and go to a different tab. It says "Baby Come Back." That was just something fun because it is. You can have fun with your portfolio site, right? It's your site. I think the web has gotten a lot more standardized and a lot less creative and individualistic than it used to be. Like I've got this little heart icon here, and if you click on it, I believe it goes to the "Do You Love Me?" Like have a little fun with your website. Like throw in an Easter egg or two. The Baby Come Back one was one that I did. I've got some UX usability concerns with that now because it doesn't. It really disorients the user, especially people who read my blog and open up 10 articles and then they all say "Baby Come Back." So I might not be doing that for the next one, but how can we bring some joy, spark some joy in this? I don't know if everyone is watching Netflix like I am. How can we make this fun and a good time? 'Cause that's all part of it. This is your space. You can do whatever you want. So how do we add that delight? I'm gonna make a note of that. And heart icon. We should thank that old site before we take it down. That's a really good point. I actually love that part of the Marie Kondo and that whole her whole method and methodology. Like I don't think we spend enough time. It's me talking from like a U.S. Western culture mentality. We don't spend enough time valuing our goods. I don't know. I can go off on this tangent, but I think we don't do it at all for digital products, right? And this website, truthfully, I've had it over the last 3 years. It's done huge things for me in my career. That blog has really opened up doors that I've never thought I would have in my life. The whole website as a whole, people, whenever I walk into a job, people are like, we really liked your portfolio and your overall design aesthetic. And it opened so many doors for me. So yes, thank you website. It's really been a heck of a ride with you, and you're not going down just yet, but we need to, we're getting close here with the redesign. So really, thank you for that. That's actually a really great reminder. I'm gonna write that down because I want to note that. What were we saying here? Add some delight. And now I have to take this off because this room, I get all the sun coming in from over there, so it gets hot right around 11 o'clock every day. Throw that guy over there. Alrighty, now we're ready. Cool. So anything else on the site that we thought worked, thought didn't work? We go back to it. I do want to figure out like loading and performance. Yeah, awesome. Glad that is exactly what you just said. Exactly what I want this to be about. No one shows that messy middle that I like to keep calling it, of like, they just show like, oh, step 1, we had this like really great document. Step 2, we got to this cool design. No one talks about like the stuff that happened in between to be like, We had to figure some things out to get there. Some people do a better job, but it really is hard to kind of present that. So that's what I wanted this to be about. This is everything. I'm only going to work on this on the stream so you guys can see what's going on. And that's actually kind of like a movement I've seen in the startup world or the maker community a little bit, Product Hunt-esque types. Like Peter Levels and those kind of guys. Shipstreams is another good example. Like people are building companies this way now, where they live stream their code and like what they're doing to build their company. So I just think that's a really interesting movement and kind of part of my inspiration for doing this project as well. Cool. And that's another thing. I didn't really talk about this in the beginning, but this is like we're going to do the portfolio project together. That'll be step one. And then we're going to go on to another project and figure out there. So what was I saying here? Figure out loading and performance. Yeah, I didn't think about that at all because I didn't know enough about it when I built the site, but that's something I really want to figure out as well. No, we're not doing this in one sitting. I will be doing this hopefully every Saturday, 10 a.m., unless people have a real schedule conflict with that or they don't. I know it's a little early for the West Coast, so I'm sorry for folks out there. That's just when I get up. Or I've been up for a while. I don't get up at 10, but I start getting into work on my weekends. So that just works for me. I might stream during the week after work, maybe for an hour or two here and there. But no, this is not a one-sitting kind of job. This is a lot of thought and a lot of... I don't want to rush this, right? And my current site is working, so I don't need to just like tear it down and throw something better up in its place immediately. So I'm gonna spend some time on this. I'm really gonna think about it. But how long am I streaming today? I was gonna go for hopefully another 40-ish minutes. Doing like 2-hour streams, that feels right to me. We can do some longer ones, certainly. I think when we get into like the coding and the design side of it, that takes a lot of time. This feels like you could be a little more staccato with this and you can break it up a little easier. So we'll see how much farther we can get in 40 minutes. So let's see. Contrast of text to background. Yeah, that's something, especially with that lighter shade. Definitely something that like lighter shade of purple. I did think that the color contrast was not as strong in that. I like the blue and white though. I think like the dark blue and white. Yeah, the light blue is too light, but the dark blue I think it's okay. Actually, that would be interesting to do the accessibility test on. So color contrast could use work with lighter blue. Keep the affordances, shadow pop up. Yeah, keep. And pop. Ooh. Definitely want to make sure we do that. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I wouldn't have... I probably internalized a lot of that, but I would not have explicitly said it, and this will help me when I'm thinking about the next site for sure. I don't know if we have too many spaces here. There we go. Awesome. So I think that's a good enough review of the site. I've been looking at the site pretty much a couple times a week for the last 3 years. So I've internalized a lot of how it works and how it operates. I also built it. That's a big part of this. So I don't feel like I need to review it as much, but I wanted to do the exercise with everybody here. And I figured some things out that I didn't necessarily think about. So let's move that to done. Alrighty. So what do we have next? Brainstorming my personal labels. So let's think about that for a second. How responsive? Oh, really good question. It is mobile responsive, so you can bring it down. I don't know how I could have done a better job with the mobile responsiveness, I think, for sure. But it stacks. It's not. A lot of this is card oriented, so it's not doing anything super crazy. Let's see here. This part could use some work. Filters are hard to do responsively, but I think I've learned some better ways to do this. And this hover stuff never really worked great on mobile. So thinking about that a little bit more. But this is all pretty mobile optimized. The blog, yeah, I think I thought it worked on mobile. I got the careers filter breaks on mobile. Interesting. The breaks in like the functionality breaks or the actual, and what kind of device are you on? If you don't mind sharing. Let me look at my the line break. Yes, thank you. I thought the functionality was break. I was like, oh, that's a note. Yeah, a little bit of delay here. Sorry, apologies for that. What was I saying here? Yeah, the line break. Yeah, so fixing that up, I think. I honestly don't know if like the filters are necessary even on the mobile view. So like that could be something that you progressively add to the progressive enhancement kind of mentality. So yeah, so it was responsive enough for what I needed to get done here. Good question. So brainstorming the personal level. That's why another great thing about this like to-do list here, like I totally forgot honestly what we were just about to do, so I could go back, look, and be like, okay, refocus back to what I'm doing. So that's another great advantage of having a to-do list like that. Site review, and so what are we calling this? Personal. What did I label it? Personal labels. Let's just a brainstorm here. And I've got a couple. Let me grab them that I talked about earlier. We can kind of break them out a little bit more. So UX designer, full stack developer, been a product manager, been a marketer, writer, teacher at Lambda School. I guess I can add live streamer to this. And I actually want to break this up into 2 seconds here, or 2 sections rather. So this is kind of like work labels, which I there's a value here and an argument to be made. Like your labels are yours universally, and I agree with that. But like in my personal life, those labels apply in my work life and vice versa. But as a mental model, as a way of thinking about this might foster a little bit more brainstorming, I think. Personal labels, what do? I'm a traveler. Love to travel. I like to think of myself as a foodie. Love food. You might be able to tell. What else do I like to do? I like to tinker. That's kind of a little tinkerer. Yeah, why not? I just like to tinker with things. Figure out how things work. How do these things operate? I would call myself a reader. And this is another thing. This is not exactly a label. You find having multiple labels on your portfolio spreads your perceived skill set too thin. I have not had that issue. Most people in the space, I think, will say like, oh, if they're a UX designer and a full stack developer, let me do a little bit more research, and let me read the rest of the portfolio. And then that's why I wish my case studies were a little bit stronger, because I think they if those were up to par, I would have a little bit of an easier time getting interviews. But whenever I've been in an interview setting and they've said, hey, we looked at your portfolio, we looked at your blog posts, and like obviously you're an engineer, talk to us about your UX design experience. And that's something that my site does not currently do. And then I have a conversation with them. I've never had an issue with that. So I like to kind of say who I think I am, and just go from there. And then if they have like gripes about that or complaints, and then I say like, and then basically they're saying, prove to me that you've earned the right to earn this label. I'll say, okay, let me walk you through the product design cycle and discovery and how I've used this in real projects. If they're asking about UX designer and specifically, like when I was conducting usability studies at this job, and we interviewed 10, 15 people and took that research and did this design work, or let me show you this mock-up I did in Sketch. They're like, oh, you're a full stack developer, like prove it. Like, okay, here's a project I built this website we're looking at. So a lot of this comes down to like people kind of saying like prove it. And so if you can have that narrative, I think you've earned the label, and so putting it on your portfolio is not an issue. And this is more brainstorming, right? Like a lot of this stuff, like I'm not going to put writer, just kind of thinking about it as a label on the site, but I'm going to put my blog there. And so implicitly, I'm kind of saying like, yes, I can write. This is something I'm doing. So right now it's more of like me just identifying all these things that I think are important to me. And so I can think about how do I want to communicate this through my design and through my site. So that's, I haven't run into a problem with breadth. Huh, that is weird. Only views should be lighting up. I don't have React DevTools installed, actually, because I don't use React. There was some Facebook code on here, but I took all that out because I'm not a huge fan of what Facebook has been doing lately, so I no longer use Facebook or track with Facebook. Interesting. I'd have to look into that a little bit more. Fortunately, we're going to code it from the ground up, so it won't be an issue for much longer. But one thing I do want to talk about are my personal values. And this comes from a book called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. And she's like a really great writer, and it's hard for me to describe her. She's an academic, but she also has a lot of consulting experience. But she talks about a lot of this sort of softer stuff, right? Like, what are your values, and how do you live through your values to work? And so that's a lot of her work has got me thinking about what are my own personal values. And she's got a whole list of like 300, or not 300, probably 100 values, and you're only allowed to pick 2 of them. And so my 2 values are excellence in learning, vulnerability. So she gets into vulnerability and all that. And so I want to make sure that within my labels and my and who I'm presenting myself as, these are my 2 that I identified for myself. And I want those to come through in whatever I am building here. So work labels: UX designer, full stack developer, product manager, writer, marketer, teacher, entrepreneur. Trying to think. We can get those more specific for sure, but I don't think they need to be just yet. Personal labels: traveler, foodie, tinkerer, reader. I'm going to throw in thinker, even though that's vague, but I just spend so much time thinking about all the most random stuff. I think we all do, right? That's kind of part of what we do as people. But I really I stay up late at night just like trying to fix global problems, like the food crisis and stuff. Like, how do I solve world hunger? That's something that will keep me up for 2 hours. I'm like, I need to go to bed. So I think that's something I personally label myself as. Awesome. Have you guys watching me in this last, I guess, hour and a half, any labels that are jumping out at you that I missed, or something that you feel like you could say like, okay, you should add this one to your list? Cool. Cool. Yeah, and honestly, you spent some of you have spent a long time with me. Some of you have spent an hour and a half. Mentor, yeah, I would say that. Content creator, oh, these are good. Thank you. I think there's a delay here. Mentor. The question was, what labels in the last hour and a half from watching me? What labels am I missing here? Is there anything that you guys can think of? Cover writer, teacher, video producer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Writer, videos, etc. Yeah, I definitely think content creator is something I enjoy and like doing. Mentor kind of plays into teacher, but I think that's different. Mentor has a little bit more of like I don't know. I feel a different feel than a teacher. Obviously, you're teaching in both of them. Badass, thank you. I don't know if I would label myself that way. I guess unicorn is kind of like that label. I don't like the unicorn label personally. I kind of like full stack everything is more of my mentality with that, but I guess that's something we could add if we wanted to. What else is going on here? I don't like the unicorn label because I think it diminishes all the parts. And obviously, like I call myself a full stack developer and a UX designer. There are people who are hyper specialized within those fields, and I'm more of a generalist in both those fields. So that's definitely something to consider here. But I feel like I can call myself both those things at this point. That's all good. Cool. So I'm feeling good about this. Let's hop back to our little to-do list here. Alrighty. So at this point, what do I want to communicate about myself to the audience? I'm actually going to pop this one on top. And that's what I love about Trello is like everything's so like free form and like flexible. I want to look at some other portfolios now because we've been doing this for an hour and a half now, and I'm feeling less and less inspired. And so looking at just other people's, and I was doing this a little bit earlier, trying to find some of my favorites, but looking at what other people are up to, I think is really nice as well. So it also gives me an opportunity to talk about those types of portfolios that we mentioned at the very, very beginning. So if you've stuck around since then, we can talk about those a little bit more. And those basically like there's a wide spectrum of portfolios that you can look at here. There's like one pagers that are like more of a professional summary. They're less about like the case for a lot of folks who are new to an industry or in their careers and their life. They can have this sort of a one pager, which is more of a summary of who they are and what they're looking for, and less focus on like the case studies and the content. There's like content focused portfolios, which is more of what I have going on, where it's like blogs and videos and talks, etc. They're like project focused ones, and those are more case studies, examples, like code examples, repositories. I find developers have more of that project focus. And then they're hybrids, right, where people pick and choose. So mine's sort of a content project hybrid, and I'm considering focusing more on the content side just because I admittedly don't have the probably the depth of access to past work that I would like in order to present my case studies in a really good way. So research other portfolios and personal websites. So let's go ahead and do that. So other portfolios. And I've picked out a couple that I just like and have found. I'm sure there are thousands, and we'll look on Dribbble and Behance and AWWW Awards. That's a hard site name. But anyway, so this is kind of that one-pager aesthetic. This is actually my friend. This is Patrick Guevara, and he and I worked at Metric Loop together, and we worked at International Studies Abroad together as engineers. I think this is really nice and really simple. It's just like highlighting who he is, what he's currently doing. He's given a few talks, and so he's kind of got that as well. And you can't scroll it. It's just all here. And I think this is great, especially if you're new and you don't have a body of work that you're necessarily ready to share. It can be this simple, right? Everyone likes to think like a portfolio's got to be this huge constructed thing, and it can be, but definitely it can be this simple as well. And so he talks about, so this I think a link to the website. His experience, I think, is just essentially a resume. We can work on his text hierarchy a little bit, but overall I think it's pretty good. He's given a few talks here. Yeah, actually these were both really good talks. I was able to go to both of those. So just kind of a way to highlight what he's done. So I really like the simplicity of this, as well as the sort of personality that he's bringing to it through text, and his explanation of himself. Simplicity. Awesome. And then there's this other one by a gentleman named Derek Raymer. I think I'm saying this right. He's a developer. He's also pretty big in the Laravel space, I'm pretty sure. He's working on an app called Level, which is like Slack, but for people who want to have a life, because Slack can just be so overwhelming. He also is a co-founder of Drip. So he's got a really nice eye for design. This is his blog. We're kind of starting with his about page because his homepage is just his content, so his blog posts. But I think that's kind of a cool, interesting idea, starting with your blog post immediately and being like, boom, this is I write. So I think that is something that's pretty interesting. His about page, though, I wanted to talk about it. There's kind of this interesting, I think, movement towards like almost like presenting yourself in a blog post. Which I think is kind of an interesting. Oh, thank you for the follow, whoever that was. Like I said, I can't see who's following when it's happening, and I need to work on figuring that out. But thank you. So I really like his way that he's presenting himself. in this kind of almost like a blog post, right? And that ties back to his writing as well. So I'm going to make a note of that. Because also his visual hierarchy is really strong. His text hierarchy is very strong. He's got great affordances here with the links. Just a touch of personality here. It's like, it's not just one photo of him, it's three, right? And kind of showing him thinking, smiling, and then looking off to the side there. Good photos all around. And then a call to action at the bottom. So yeah, I just think that's nice. His podcast is a link out to his show. So again, highlighting that he's producing content, and then a link to his startup, which is this, and you can certainly see some similarities there. Oh, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Again, one day I will be able, probably hopefully by next time, I'll be able to see everybody's names as they're coming in. But yeah, this is his site for his product, which I think is super cool. Thank you again. Thank you. Awesome. So I like the blog post style, strong visual and text hierarchy. Awesome. And then this is Charlie Dietz's portfolio. And if you refresh it, he's got like a nice subtle animation kind of showing you basically who he is and what he does. Charlie, I think, and this is a link to his About page. This doesn't have tons of information, but I think it's okay. I probably wouldn't make this full height like he has, but he gets away with it with the arrow, and because it's pretty obvious. So Charlie is a designer at Facebook and WhatsApp. He's actually very, very talented. He also built this app for watching moon phases. Also really, really cool. So he's got a ton, and so let's look at one of these. I think they're interesting. His case studies are really strong, showing like all the work that he did, and a really nice description. They're less focused on like his contributions to that and more focused on what the features that they worked on were, which I think is an interesting style, certainly. And then this is his footer down here, which I think is just a gorgeous footer. Just kind of showing like your footer can be a part of your content. It doesn't just have to be this thing on the bottom you forget about. And then his navigation is kind of interesting as well. I don't love the stack style, but I understand what he's going for. And if you his site's mobile responsive, so if you scroll it, I guess it's not, I gotta go back. He just pops it up top, which again, there's pros and cons. But I just think his case studies look really nice. He's got all this imagery that he's worked on. So a cool site to check out. He does some writing as well. Looks like everything's over on Medium. Totally cool, right? So even like he's a developer, designer. I think he's a designer, but he's knows enough developers who he could have asked to build a site for him if he wanted. And even he uses Medium. I use Medium, honestly. I still cross post all of my work to Medium. And then I just think his footer is a really interesting take on the footer. So that's something I want to explore. So Charlie's site, strong case studies, and what else does he have? The footer. Awesome. And then, so like, I don't know if he knows Brutalist websites. I don't know. I don't know if I can say I've seen too many. Awesome. Oh, thank you for the subscribe, I think. What was I going to say? If you have examples, I could definitely comment on them, but I don't know about it as a genre. One thing I think that's interesting, Charlie is pretty well known, I would say. He's got a brand and a reputation, especially on Twitter. So for instance, if we open his thing up, he's got like 4,000 something followers. So he's obviously got a reputation within the space. So he doesn't need to necessarily present his personality as much, although he kind of is subtly. Versus Justine here, who I thought, and actually I saw this come through on Twitter the other day, right when I was thinking about this stuff. She does such a nice job of presenting her portfolio and her work, but also like incorporating a little bit of sly design in here. Not design, sly, a little bit of her personality. So I really appreciate what she was doing with this. And she's writing on Medium and working on Dribbble, and she does talks. So a really nice description here, and again, another indication that you should scroll the page. She has some case studies here, so if we can open up one of these guys. I think these are on Medium. Yeah, so she works, she just puts a lot of her content on Medium. And I think she does really nice ones as well. She says who the client is, what she did, who else was involved. This context is like incredible, right? Anytime you can bring that context into this, you're really helping people understand the work you did, but also the environment you were operating in. And that's like something like, I think as designers, we often look at a website and we're like, oh, this one looks like crap, or this one looks great. And we forget like there are constraints within any system. And maybe the designer is really talented, but they had a 2-day timeline and this is what they could come up with. We don't see that part of the process. And so this is your opportunity to provide that context within those, within these case studies. She goes over her process here. So this is loosely, looks like she swapped maybe definition and discovery, but loosely the product design cycle. And then kind of covering like all the work she did. And she did a really nice job here. She's taking pictures. She's really getting into her results. This looks like personas, like really, really nice detailed case study here. So like for me, I don't have this kind of content here. I could talk about it, but I don't have the content to really support what I did. So she's just really done a phenomenal job here with her case studies. And that's where I want to learn from this. I want to learn from the case studies that she's put together. Really strong case studies, and then also that personality she injected here. So this seems pretty like, okay, it's a photo of her, and like, okay, there's an emoji, nice to meet you, great. But then she has these like little parallax sections here, and they're just like really fun. You're not expecting it because you kind of scrolled the page for a little while, and it's like, oh, okay, hi, like this is a person here. This is her writing, and then she's just having fun. Like she's doing interesting things in the background, right? She's reading like a really great book by Malcolm Gladwell. She's using Google VR, right? And then she's got these kind of fun photos down here, like a lot of personality all of a sudden. And so I just think she does a really, really nice job presenting herself. She also has like a short story as well. Yeah, that is a good book. I like that one a lot. So she's, again, kind of that blog as a way of, blogging as a way of talking about herself. I saw someone put a whatchamacall in the chat, a portfolio in the chat. Yeah, she does look awesome. Like I would love to hang out with her. So interactive resume. Yeah, you can get really creative with it, right? Like this is incredible, right? It's a little, I'm interested to see how the end looks. Like this is a really cool way of like presenting yourself. Pretty advanced, right? So like, and this is something I think that intimidates a lot of people. It's like, this looks amazing. This has so many animations. How could I ever get on this level? And yeah, this is contact, right? I don't necessarily think you need to do something this intense. Mine is certainly not going to be this intense. With the graphics and everything. And here's a brutalist example. But so I don't think you need to present yourself in like this ambitious of a way, although if you can, go for it. Like this is awesome, right? But it's not like required to get a job by any stretch. You can have something that looks more content and work driven than this crazy interactive incredible site. But this is cool, right? Let's see if this is just an interactive resume. I wonder if his actual site yeah, so his actual site is a little bit more focused on who he is. But let's see. His portfolio, yeah, so he's doing a lot of cool stuff. I'm assuming it's a he. That's maybe not the correct assumption to make here. So they are doing this. A really nice job. Yeah, so this is really cool stuff. But it doesn't have to be this intense. It can definitely be something more chill. And again, if that's a reflection of who you are and your skill set and what you like, someone like Robbie, I read his name wrong. See, his typography choice could have used a little bit of work there because it was hard to read his name on his website, which you don't want. It was easier here though. Like Robbie sounds like somebody who makes video games and who is into CSS and animations and interaction design. If that's what you're into and you want to showcase that, then go for it. Like that's awesome. But like that's not my skill set by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't necessarily want to highlight my lack of that on my personal website. So do what's right for you and what makes sense. Oh, that's spelled wrong. interaction design. And we have a Brutalist site come in the chat here. Let me see if we can open this guy up. Let's see. Doesn't look like I can scroll the page yet. Yeah, so let me refresh it again just to see. I don't think I'm blocking anything. Yeah, this feels really. Oh, if you scroll over it, see, like there's nothing here to like really explain to me what I should be doing. And so this is like as a usability designer, like someone focusing more on the UX. This is almost unusable, right? It's like, I don't have no idea what I'm supposed to do until I just start playing with it. But that could be like what they're trying to evoke. They're trying to evoke this like playful, like, hey, go play with the site and figure it out. So in portfolios and studios, you can get away with that more on these type of websites than you can on product websites. And so if you want to experiment and go for it, I would say try it. But if you do a usability test and all of a sudden it's like nobody knows what to do because there's no call to action here except for maybe information, then you're going to have to incorporate that usability research into your work. Like it's really like I don't necessarily know that's clickable unless I like accidentally scrolled over it. So I personally don't love this approach just because it's so abstract and it's just so hard to work with. It looks like their other work though was really nice. I like minimalism and simplicity I think are awesome, but when you take it to this kind of an extreme, I'm not a huge fan of it personally. Off topic, have you watched The Ballad of Buster Scruggs? I have not, but I think it's on my list of things to watch on Netflix. So I think it looked pretty good. Cool. So those are just some other portfolios there that I took some inspiration from. One place I love to look, I mean, I think every designer loves to look on Dribbble. As you can see, it's I use the Panda plugin and it's part of my landing page. So if we talk about portfolio, let's throw a portfolio in here. I'm sure there's going to be some really cool ones. This one caught my eye right away. That one looks really nice. I know I could just probably go through here and click for days. That one looks cool. This looks cool. This looks cool. I don't know. I'm just going through and clicking on things that catch my eye. That one looks really cool. Nice, and they've got different color treatments here, which is really interesting. This looks like more of a brand portfolio. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Different color, and so I think it's a really great exploration of color. Gosh, and like what each of these is telling me something so different. And so but it's all the same design. It's just the color that's changing. So really interesting exploration. Not so much what I want for a Actually, there are some elements there that I would incorporate into my portfolio for sure. This is kind of cool. Again, kind of like the similar to what I was doing on my website, stacking the boxes a little bit differently, the divs. These are pretty cool. That's kind of an interesting approach there. So this is something I might consider using as inspiration. This looks like interaction design. Yeah, so this is like, you're seeing this more and more these days. I think it's interaction design has gotten more popular. These really cool effects. That's almost like material design-esque. Honestly, this is really great. Oh, and this is a concept. So this is probably built with InVision Studio or something like that. Yeah, made with Studio, which I need to try. Maybe we'll try that with this project. That would be fun. I normally use Sketch, but I have been meaning to try InVision Studio. So that, again, looks like a really great interaction. Something to consider, right? So I think that's a cool pattern. What else? This looks like more of a brand layout. Just kind of, I feel like designers will find like a really cool photo and then we'll be like, we got to build a website around that, or some sort of interface around it. Again, I don't know. There's a lot. Looks like that's kind of like a horizontal scrolling site, which I don't personally love, so I'm probably going to stay away from it for my site. That's a really cool effect. I don't want to have to code it though. That's kind of my. Wow. So this is a very strong visual text hierarchy, and that's kind of the whole thing they're going for. For a style portfolio, though, that makes sense, right? It fits that brand aesthetic that they're going for. Really, really interesting. Cool. I like that one. And this another. It looks like another color exploration. That's pretty cool. I think that's an interesting really attention grabbing kind of header there that they're going for. And then I like the circle on it personally. I think that like really probably the blue one just because I think it's such a nice call to action down below here, and it really ties those two together. Like whose profile am I viewing? Obviously the person surrounded by the blue, so it's a really subtle way to incorporate that. So yeah, I like that one a lot as well. So let me go ahead and add these 3 to our list here. And I could do this for hours probably, looking around and seeing what other folks have done and what looks good and what I'm inspired by. But I tend to do this several times throughout the project, right? Like I'll think about in the beginning, like go ahead, look around, just kind of have an idea of things that really look good. Here's another one, Tough Candy's portfolio. We'll bring that down. Yeah, this looks really nice too. The affordances are there. That looks, I mean, it's a little, unless you know, like it's like, but the hover I think makes it okay. Interesting use of color. I think that's really nice. Yeah, it's simple, but I think it works. Git simulator. Yeah, these kind of nice case study blog post types. Yeah, it's another I think really good example of portfolio. Yeah, I would love to like spend some more time and really dive into the explanation for sure. So what was I saying here? But yeah, so I'll like do a little bit at the beginning, looking for some like just general inspiration, like which direction am I thinking of heading in as I start to organize my content, and what content do I really want to focus on, and then I'll work on my content for a little bit and kind of refer back to my examples here, and then maybe I'll look for some more and say like, okay, I don't love what these are saying, or I need to kind of refocus this a little bit more. And then, you just kind of, you roll from there, and it's not like a step-by-step, this is the linear progression through this project. If you do all these steps, you're going to have a good portfolio. It's organic and it evolves, and you take some inspiration and you go do some stuff and you need some more, and it's pretty fluid. And so that's definitely something to learn and feel comfortable with here in this process as well. But we're coming up on about 2 hours here, and we'll just move this over to done for now. And let's see here. So we've got to think about the communication, unique value proposition, how I want to present myself to the world. And these are something based, we've done a lot of our research now, and now we're going to start getting into like the writing side of things. And I think that might be something we're going to tackle next weekend, because that's going to be definitely a couple hours of work for sure. So I want to make sure we're all fresh and ready for that. So wonderful. Thank you all for joining this first inaugural stream on Twitch here. Like I've been saying, I will definitely throw the video recording of this on my YouTube channel, which you can look at below, just so that way we don't lose it and we kind of have a nice recording of everything. Please follow the channel if you want to get the notifications and you like what we're doing. It's just the best indicator for me that what we're doing here works and everything makes sense. If you want to throw suggestions in the suggestion box, that would be, or down below, that would be awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I've been enjoying this. It looks like some of you are enjoying this for sure. So I really appreciate the community here, right? And you guys taking the time to talk with me and making for a really engaging experience for everyone. So thank you so much. And hopefully we will continue to grow and continue to build this community and continue to build this portfolio. And then once we're done with the portfolio, we'll all decide on what we want to work on together next. Because I don't want this to just be a one and done thing. I like to build things in my free time too. So together we can come up with whatever that next project is going to be. So thank you everyone once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend. Goodbye.